because of a lack of ignorance. Just ignorant, just lack of knowledge. They don't have knowledge about the call. Sometimes it's the perverted spirit that just wants its own way. But God, being who He is, will set a season up, and that generational curse will die. And there will be some sons of thunder that will arise and will have a passion for God and will run for God and will begin to curb the lives of that. Everybody has a purpose. You have a purpose in this life. So the enemy would have you to believe, well, I'm just here. I can choose my life. I can do whatever I want. And you can. But I promise you, you'll live in sorrow because you have. I bet if you think about your life right now, I bet there are some things in your life you wish you could have said, if I only knew what I was purposed to do, I wouldn't have done this and I wouldn't have done that. But remember this, there is a higher call and there's a higher plan that's higher than yours. And that you should be grateful for. In spite of my lack of knowledge, in spite of the ignorance in many different areas, there was a God plan. And out of my mother's womb, when I came out, there was a call. And between that call and the higher plan and the purpose for my life was birth a prophet. And so my life began to be orchestrated around the purpose, plan, and the call upon my life, even though I didn't know it. Let me give you an example. I was raised by my grandmother. I stayed with my mother for a few years, but my grandmother was the one who put the principles in my life for the way things should be presented, how things should go, how I should live in my house, what was clean, what was not. Do you know those things follow me even today? The order, the structure in the house. That's how powerful a person can be in your life when they mentor you or they raise you or they instruct you. Literally, today, I have so much of Mildred Simmons in me. It's phenomenal. And the older I get, and sometimes I'll look at it and I'll go, where did that come from? And sometimes people will ask me, how do you keep your house like this? Why do you have these principles? And one day I thought it was from my grandmother. But she was one that was used as a protecting to the call. Because and I don't even know if my mother even knew why she gave me to my grandmother. But I stayed with my grandmother for several years, I think until I was maybe in the 4th grade. And then there began to be a yearning for my mother. Do you know those foundational years she cultivated the call? But it was a plan of God. Now, come on, I'm helping you to know your calling this morning. I'm helping you to understand you are not a Johnny come late. It does not matter who your father is, whether it was a one-night stand, whether or not, your mother was raped, or whether or not, it's irrelevant. Because the higher plan of God is dominant. You are here. Why you are the way you are. Do you know I realized that even as a child, that there were people that came against the call? I could remember for years as a little girl, and even in my adolescent years, I could not understand what they saw. I remember as a child, I would ask myself, why is it me? What do they see? I didn't even know what I meant by see, but I knew that they saw something I didn't. Why? because they treated me different. They favored me among all the others. I used to think it was because I had very long hair. And my mom said I had very dreamy eyes, and it always made people care for me. They always said my mother took care of me in a special way. And I would think, I wonder, but then I grew in it and I did not understand. There are times that God will cultivate prophets and prophetess by their grandmothers. I don't know, that's just a thing of his. So often I would have so many individuals or prophets that I'll meet and I'll say, tell me your story. And they'll tell me their story and I'll think, there goes another grandmother. So I don't know if grandmothers are just agents for God. They're just divine angels to protect the call. So I want you to understand, I'm trying to show you how to go in your past life, in your childhood, and see the plan of God. Now there's another side of a childhood where the favor and the call will be on a child's life from the day that they're born. And the minute they start to walk, their uniqueness will develop. That is the birthing, believe it or not, of the physical manifestation of the call, where God began to illuminate the differences. There were times everybody, they could do anything they wanted to do. If I did it, I got in trouble. There was a greater expectation from me than anyone else. And I didn't understand why. I would be like, why do they expect me? You all follow Miranda. You all do what Miranda. I could not understand. But as I look back now, it was the birthing of the call. It had me to be picked out. It made people hate me. It made people jealous. It made people come against me. It also made a great favor. There was always a teacher that favored me. There was always someone that saw the gift, just like there was also an opposing one as well. Along with the call, God will always birth a talent. He will. He will birth a talent and he'll birth a gift. I think back, the prophetic gift was there. I just didn't call it that. I didn't know it was the gift. I don't know what I thought it was. I just knew things. And then I would blurt things out that I knew. Mandi hu raboshi. It was the birthing of the prophetic. But whenever there's a lack of knowledge, nobody was there to cultivate me, to tell me, wait, you stand out because of this. That's the mark of God. That's the prophetic in you. That's the eyes. My eyes were always a problem for people. They always thought I was looking in them. And I'm a kid. I don't even know what they're saying. I don't understand. I remember visiting one of my uncles in Chicago and one year, and he told me, he says, you've always been this way. And I was like, I don't know what he's talking about. What way? But the call will always shine out. Then you would have to begin to understand that God will begin to draw the things of God in your life through people. He will start pulling you in areas. Now, when that generational curse is still moving, it will always be opposing the call, which is where you get church hurt. Because just as God will begin to draw you into the things of God, there will also be an opposing from that generational curse. It will begin to oppose and mix with the God. And that's where you get the deep wounds. That's where you get the hurts in church, the stabs, the knives. That's where you get the perversion in the church, which causes wounds. Now, as you begin to come to a place of understanding that you are special, and I mean the good kind of special, that God has called you to a certain place, You may not understand it or even know specifically what the call is, but you know that there's something set apart. You'll learn who you are called to. I can remember um, the curve in my life where I began to draw to know God. And it was in El Toro, California, where the Lord called me. I went there because I was married to a military person. And we're not there 2 months, and he's sent off to Japan. It was so purposed because I was there alone. Typically, when God gets ready to call you and curve your life, he's going to isolate you to himself. And that's exactly what happened. I had one little boy, but there was a lady upstairs that was filled with the Holy Spirit. I remember her to the day, Sonia Miner from Indiana. One day I'll hope to find her. She curved my life. After she curved my life, I was no longer the same. No longer the same. And when my husband came back home from Japan, he said, "You are different. What has happened?" The call began to take its place. And I went back home. We went back home. We moved back to Louisiana. Totally another person. My mother said, "You are different." But across the street was one of my cousins that was a pastor. And she was always different. She curved my life. She began to make the call come to arise. Now, then I began to know who I was called to, because there began to be a drawing. It was amazing because I began to draw. God began to orchestrate me to be around many of the divine anointed people. One of my aunts, another unique one, she always had a yearning and a seeking for God that was just unique. And I began to pull from her. And I learned that it was Sonia Minor. That's where I got filled with the Holy Spirit, and her words began to download in me. Soon as I get home, my cousin across the street, she had an intimacy with God that was unique, and she was set apart. Even as a child, I knew she was set apart. The curving, then I met my aunt, and she had this drive for the supernatural and angelic visitations and seeking God. And all of these things began to curve in my life. And some of them are still there today. See, but you don't know it's happening. The call is happening. You call it something else. You're doing life. That's what you're doing. You're doing life. You're probably in a traditional church, not aware, but God began to orchestrate things. Moko rabashe. When God began to birth a call in you, it will be easy. Easy. It will be what other people have to work for. They'll stay up all night studying. They will sweat. They'll have to plan it. They'll have to ponder it. When someone has a call or they are gifted in an area, they don't need anything. It's like riding a bike. And that's one of the things that I want to really focus on today. Now, see, there's a grace that comes with the perfect call. Anybody else would probably say to walk in the office of a prophetess, or to walk or to do what I do, would probably say, "I don't understand how you do that." But what they don't understand, it's a perfect call. And when I accepted the call, see, when you fight your call, let's just say you possibly just think you're called to teach or called to preach or maybe called to evangelize because you have such a passion for saving souls, or to deal with missionaries because you have such a passion for saving homeless children and dealing with, see, and what you don't understand is that it is God that is putting that on the inside of you. That's not just because you're nice. It may even be something that has been in your legacy. See, people talk about generational curses all the time, but if they go a little bit more in the scripture right under where it talks about generational curses, there's generational blessings as well. And in the blessings, there may be a mantle to do something. This is where you might have a family of nurses or families of doctors that are just called to this. And the whole family. The child gets out of high school, he already knows what he's going to do because it's over the family. You have a family that just loves to serve or love to be able to feed the homeless or love to be able to put shelters up or house people. That's part of a call. But there is a grace that's over a call, and I walk in it today. There is a grace in the prophetic that God has given, and my call fit like a glove. Like I'm not twisting in the suit. The suit fits like a glove, like it was made for me. And that is the call of grace upon my life to walk in what I'm called to do. Now, one of the greatest things that could be done is if you begin to deal with your insecurities, because insecurities fight the call. Insecurities cause you to find a person that you admire, and then before you know it, you try to become this person because you don't know your call. You don't know what you don't have one, or you don't think you have one. Now, just because God begins to make known your call, that doesn't mean you begin to walk in it. Mind you, there are generational blessings, but there are also generational curses. And you've got to go in the legacy and figure out what that is. Your legacy will tell you so much about your life. And the reason why I'm spending a lot of time on the legacy and the generational curses, because believe it or not, that is the giant that you are fighting today. You just don't know where it comes from. So you're beating yourself up and say, well, I'm just a horrible person. I just always fall into this. This is just who I am. No, it's not. It's not. You're dealing with the giants in the legacy. But the grace for the perfect call. It is my desire to tell you, pray to know the call. Pray to know your heart. Because sometime, let me give an example. Let's just say you had a family that maybe experienced a lot of poverty. Because that poverty was there, it will cause you to even wear the poverty mentality. It will cause you to have a deeper focus on finances. Or you may have one that will rise up out of the family and say, oh no, this is not going to be me. And at that rate, they begin to push out of it, which creates a spirit that causes them to focus on finances. Now, God is so merciful and so powerful. He will orchestrate people to drop in your life. Just like the 3 people that curved my life. They curved it, each one of them. One to be filled, one to go into knowing God intimately, and the other one was to know God in the supernatural way. This was to let me know that tradition wasn't for me because of these three people. They were my foundation. Now, you have to understand that God's going to give you a place to serve, a place to be cultivated. Elijah and Elisha, he served him. In the midst of the serving him, he was able, what the mantle, he was being prepared for the mantle during the serving. But I tell individuals all the time that Elijah, people like to say, oh, I'm like Elijah. I beg to differ. There's very few Elijahs. He would not allow it to be deterred. He never got off track. He never had another mindset for nothing else. There are not many Elijahs. And because of it, he caught the mantle because he was in the right place. Sometimes people think they're deserving of something, but they really have aborted the ministry or aborted the call long ago. So you have to understand that God has orchestrated your life. Now, I'm going to say something and you're probably going to say, oh, no, prophetess, I disagree. Do you know the church hurt and the many other ministries? And I was a part of at least 7 ministries. And do you know that I believe they were all purposed, even in the pain? Yes. I am who I am today because of the pain that was purposed in my journey to find my calling. But there was something unique about each place I went. They knew the call, but I didn't. They knew the call. And they fought the call because I was so different and because it looked so different. But I didn't have anyone to tell me. But there was a season in life of revealing where the Lord began to allow me to meet people. And he caused me them to start dropping nuggets. So I've tracked several different prophecies at unique times. Sometimes some of them were confusing. I remember one in particular. It's not confusing now. I fully understand it. And I remember meeting someone and she just flat out told me, she said, you are not supposed to be a part of that church. I was like, okay, this is my church. I've been here forever. I love them. I love these people. I don't care what she says. This is what I like. And I went on. And she prophesied and she spoke the word. She said, this is not where you're supposed to be. And you're going to experience so much church hurt. At that time, I didn't even know what she was talking about. I didn't even know what church hurt was. But God in his divine nature, no matter what, allowed that thing, even the hurt, to cultivate me. So in the midst of finding your calling, you're going to find many different pieces and parts. You're going to find God. Sometimes God will be dealing with that generational curse. Sometimes God will put you under Pharaoh to strengthen you. Sometimes he'll put you in the desert and let you find your Midian. And you'll go off the scene for a moment that the call may arise. God may anoint someone to be able to train and teach you and become your Elijah, that you might be prepared. But it's how you look at your life. See, some people have their own concept of their life. They've already planned their life. Sometimes their parents have already planned their life. And they're already on a business plan. They're already on a medical plan. I'm going to be a nurse. I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to own land. I'm going to do real estate. I want to buy houses. So, but the traditional parent does not know how to tell this child who they are. So today, every one of you that is on this call today, you now have knowledge to cultivate your children. Prophetically look at them, prophetically endow them with who they are in God. You may say, I can't tell my son that. My son won't listen to me. Speak it over him no matter what. Every time he comes to your house, you get you some oil and you anoint that oil. You anoint him and say, son, I call you for the kingdom. You will come to your divine purpose, and the call upon your life shall make its arrival. And let him go ahead. Let him, doesn't matter. But prophetess, my daughter is, you just don't know. I can't tell her. It doesn't matter. Supernaturally send the word to her. Speak it over her life. But those of you that are blessed to have children and grandchildren that you can cultivate in the things of God, and they are near you, it doesn't matter. Speak it over them. You're speaking life into them. And God will do the rest. God will orchestrate people, and your words will follow them. It will follow them forever. I could remember when my daughter's father, when she brought her home from the hospital, he immediately put integrity music on, and he played it until we left out of that house, literally. She slept with it, and he would decree over her she would worship. And that prophetic worship would come out of her from the time she got home from the hospital. See, it's so important to speak over your children's life. Do you know that God spoke over Jesus? He said, you are my son, in whom I'm well pleased. That was the Father speaking over his son. Do you know we are supposed to do that? So you have to speak over their lives, and God will reveal. Now, callings are very precious, and they have purpose, and they have seasons to come alive. For years, God allowed me not to know my calling. It made me a servant. I couldn't believe in anything I could do, so I had such a passion to serve. I just wanted to serve. I wanted to do anything to serve it. What can I do to serve? I just knew there was a heart for that. There are times that God will hide a calling in a serving. And you will so think, oh, I'm anointed to develop a nonprofit for children, and I have a passion for children. And in most times, your passion, which you think is your call, is really the healing of yourself. Most time, people birth organizations out of what they went through. I'm one. I have daddy's girl, because I never knew what it was like to live under the roof with my father. And it made me have a passion for young girls with children, young girls with fathers and mothers who were incarcerated, because mine was incarcerated. So that's where my passion lies. And they would always find me. But believe it or not, it's still the stirring of the call. So some of you for a moment may be doing great, wondrous community work. But guess what? That's really not the call. It's a byproduct of the call right now. God will spoon feed you as much as you can take, because he knows our nature. You'll go jump out. You'll be ready to go prophesy and do this. And you really shouldn't, because little do you know, if you've experienced church hurt, you will hurt other people. Yes. Because you will do to others what was done to you unless you come into the knowledge. So there are times God will hide your calling. He'll hide it. Others will see it, Now I look back and I thought, oh my God, they saw the uniqueness. They saw the difference. That was the prophetic they saw. I could remember one woman, I think I was a teenager, and she just says, you just know things. And I said, what does that mean? She spoke some words. She said I was unique. There was some things I was going to do, and I'm thinking this woman. At that time, I didn't know about prophets. I basically thought she was one of the strange people that are typically on the street with the soothsaying and the witchcraft or the voodoo people. And I thought I don't want to know that because it was foreign to me. But there's going to come a day that God's going to orchestrate a settling in your life. And it will be a place for you to set and a season to study to show yourself approved. And you need to set quietly and you need to receive. You don't need to see your insecurities got to be dealt with. Because if not, your insecurities will work against you. They will. Some of you were put in very unique, special places. But because of the generational perversion that was in you, you misused the place you were in. God set you near special people to cultivate you, to put you in a place, to cause you to be able to be in a place to be cultivated for the kingdom, that your calling may come about. But you felt you was ready, or that hot thing in you starts stirring up from pawpaw. Makon nirabasha. And because you felt like you were ready. So then when the call began to come in its place and God set you under a shepherd and someone that he wants you to receive from, although that might not be the full permanent place, it's just a part of the journey. But it's an important part of the journey. And there are nuggets that are supposed to be dropped in your life for the good. But because of Paul's perverted and the thing that's in the legacy, until somebody catches a hold to that, the calling will be twisted. And you will not come to the fullness of the call. My God, Father, cause them to receive this word today. So then you'll get some knowledge of the call. Then you have a place that you may come to a point, oh my God, so this is the call. So then you'll have a season where you get real religious. You'll get real super spiritual, unaware that that perverted thing is still in you. Then you got a mixture. You have a little bit of this, and now you got some knowledge of the call. You may or may not be in the right place. But remember, I talked about the grace for the perfect call. See, there was a time I had a call, and I'm going to call it a suit. So I had this suit, but the suit was too big for me. Then it was too little. Then it seems like it was a little tight on the side. But then there came to a place where the suit began to perfectly fit. And that was the day of the birthing of the true call. In that day, I was able to look back on all the times I missed seasons. I was a goat. You know what a goat is in the ministry. You know, they kick everybody. Yeah. The days that I was seduced and I was able to see in a different place. I wept for 3 days because I then saw the call in a way like I had never seen the call before. It brought a humility that reigns even today. I learned a sensitivity to seasons and timing. See, Elijah had to go through all those years and timing of being prepared to meet Elijah, to go and sit before him and travel with him and be as determined. See, the plan of the call started way before he met him. But you notice when he did, he was determined. There are some people that feel that they are entitled to certain things. A call and a mantle, you don't get to be entitled to it. It's given by God. It's given because of the heart, not just because you served. I have people that have served with me for years, but that does not mean that they would be in line for the call or the mantle. It could be a cultivation to prepare. See, you got to know what season it is. There's a season for planting. There's a season for churning. There's a season to bringing you into the call. There's a season for accepting the call. There's a season to study to show yourself approved. There's a season for preparing to get dressed for the call. There's a season where you get suited for the call. And then there's a season where you walk in the grace for the call. And everything in the spirit realm, the natural realm, begins to align for the grace to walk in the call. Woo! You have a call upon your life. But you walking in all these babyfied things. You walking in all these natural things. Let me say this. I hear somebody saying, but prophetess, so I'm called to make money. I'm called to make, yes. Listen, I am not anti money for the kingdom, because I'm not going to rest till I got sinners around this world to be able to help people, to be able to cultivate abused children and children with incarcerated families. I'm not. And I believe that's a mantle and a call, and I'm going to need money to do it. But the call to the gospel has got to be first. Or you're going to be like just a religious little Christian person doing a nice work. God is always, do you know God is always looking for a heart that will accept the call? Oh my God. Do you know he's always waiting for you to say, yes, I'll go, Lord? Do you know how many people on a daily basis, they tell me this religious stuff? Oh yeah, well, I know the Lord's called me, but I don't know about all this preaching. I'm not ready for that. And I just look at him and go, you foolish person. You're so foolish. You have no clue. But I have passion on them, and I have compassion for them. I do. Because I was just like that at one time. And it was out of ignorance. It was because I didn't know the depths of the gospel. I didn't understand the power of the gospel, and that he had called me to be one of them to carry the gospel. See, even the families that you are put in, I was given to two very unique families. Very unique. Some woman, I think, was on TikTok, and she emailed and she asked me, she said, where do you get this unique prophetic in you? And then she says, and where do you get the unique love? And I said, why is she asking me this? And the Lord said, answer her. I'm like, I don't know how to answer her. So I go to the computer and I'm typing. And he said, the call of the prophet came from the Simmons family in your life. I said, oh, wow. Okay. He said, in the unique love and the heart for the people and the giving of people, he said, came from your father's plight of life. And I call that the Thorntons family. They're all loving. They're unique. Now, whether you know it or not, You got some of these people in you. And you just need to take the good, work on the bad, but follow the perversion, follow whatever's in it, study it, go after it, because some of it's in you. But see, that's the reason why part of the journey, when you hear me talk about being suited for the call, you notice it came after studying to show yourself approved. Because when you study to show yourself approved, that's the impartation of the power of the word, which is where the dunamis power comes in to prepare you to be suited. Suited is when you are delivered. It's to be suited. Because see, the suit don't fit. The reason why you can't, you twist it and you can't fit, and you're like, I don't understand. It's choking my neck, this tie choke, because you're not suited yet. You got some things that are on you that are not right. So they don't make the suit fit. Oh my God. But once you start that deliverance process, every day parts of the suit is going to fit. It gets clearer and clearer and clearer. Now, once you're suited, there's going to be seasons where God's going to begin to put you in places to prepare and shape the call. Elijah got his all with Elisha. Now, you may have to go to Pastor so-and-so and Pastor so-and-so and Pastor this and Pastor this. And each of them will drop something in your life. Some of them will drop something bad. Some will drop something good. But even the bad will work for the good. Every part of my bad has worked for the good. I'm sensitive to people because of the wound that I was wounded. I'm sensitive to new members. I labor with them because of what was done to me. The love that I was shown in the ministry that I was there for years upon years, guess what? All because of the love I received. The mercies when I was undelivered. Your bullshit. See, you gotta flip that thing. You gotta understand. Sometimes you were the problem. My God. See, when you become suited, you see things so differently. See, now I am a pastor. Now I am a prophetess. I see in a whole different realm than I saw before. But it all works for the call. All of it. Now, there are times, and this is one of the strangest seasons, and I'm gonna continue today to cover this. There'll be a season in between the grace for the perfect call where the gifts become illuminated. And this is a very tedious season where you have to walk in such a unique way. Because one, the gifts are being awakened. Then they have to be groomed. Then you have to be taught to use the gifts. And then the gift have to be refined. Oh my God, they have to be refined. In the midst of the refining of the gifts is where you're taught how to use them. Now, this season is very serious because the first part of this season is getting the vipers out of you. See, you have to understand when you've had church hurt, that's a viper. And it's in you. That's the reason why you can't get delivered. Every time you think you delivered, you're back again. It's because of another viper that's there. You might say, wait, prophetess, I'm filled with the Holy Spirit. I'm walking in power. I pray for people. I speak in tongues. I've interpreted tongues. Yes, sweetie, still got a viper. A hidden one is down deep in there. And guess what? It will hurt other people. Ooh, mande la basha. See, that's the reason why you just don't jump in the grace to be called. See, that's the reason why that's the last one, the grace of the perfect call. See, that's why you got to wait to be prepared for that particular one. Yeah, nahondo rabashi. You have to be prepared. But sometimes when that gift is being refined, you're going to have insecurities come up. You're going to have insecurities and other people come up. There are times that the pastors that you're under will not honor your gift. They'll want to hold you tight. See, pastors are loving, and they're going to remember, I labored with her. I bought her this, and I bought him this, and I took him here, and I did this. But what they don't understand, that's what pastors do. But they're very attached to you. Pastors hold tight to their sheep. But there's going to be a season that the gift is going to be illuminated. So imagine several people in a church, and all of a sudden there's a light that is in the midst of this person. And that light starts to illuminate really, really loud. The person's not even aware. It's just the light starts to get more brilliant and brilliant. That's the gifts. And during that time, sometimes it can be very hard. Sometimes they don't want to acknowledge the gift. Sometimes they don't have the anointing to train people on the gift. So therefore, they'll fight the gift, which causes people to be loosed. They leave the church, go looking for a place to place their gift that it would fit. And then they find more harm. Because sometimes the gifts are so unique. This is the reason why you need prophetic mentorship. Because if you don't have prophetic mentorship, you're going to have a problem. Because somebody has to tell you what kind of prophet you are. How are you anointed? What gift? They have to prepare you to wear the gift, to walk in the gift, to have wisdom for the gift. If not, somebody goes after to kill the gift. My God. So what happens to the person that accepts the call, but then they just do life? So when God's ready to talk to them and they won't listen, he just loose you to yourself. He takes his hand and he backs up from you. And when he does that, you start tearing up your own self. That's why it's so important what come out of your mouth. What you want, what you don't want, what you're not going to do. Some of you fight God in your heart. Because when a wound come on the inside of you, when that wound comes on the inside of you, you make decrees on the inside of your heart. Fine, I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to do what I know. You don't know that you didn't verbally say it. You did it in the heart. But what you don't understand is that God is so powerful. He has a pulse on your heart. Oh my God. And so when you don't obey him, he gets in your world. When he says, now I'm trying to get you to humble yourself, but you on this other mission. He says, that's not the mission I got for you. I'm going to work with your mission. Yes, I'm going to give you plenty of money. I'm going to even let you do great in the marketplace. I'm going to let you do great in the business place. Yes, I've called you. I've called you to do great things in the marketplace and in the kingdom. But my kingdom must come first. So what happens when you don't put the kingdom in the call first? That's where you run into problems. That's where you start running. There's a strategic demon that becomes assigned to your life. And that's where you run into the drugs and That's where you run into the situations, and that's where you run into all the issues in your life that you regret to the day. But in that time, you're going to have to begin